Hello, and a warm welcome to Reddit Echo.
Grandma's house. For most people, those words conjure images of warmth, cookies, and unconditional love. For me, it's always been a place of two conflicting realities. During the day, it's exactly that, a haven of comfort, filled with the smell of home-cooked meals and the sound of my grandparents' laughter. But as the sun sets, the house changes. It settles into a different kind of silence, one that feels watchful, and the familiar creaks and groans of an old building begin to sound a little too much like footsteps. This duality started for me when I was about 14. That was the age when my sleeping arrangements changed. My grandparents had begun sleeping in separate bedrooms, both on the first floor, and I was moved to a different room down the hall. It was a cozy room, but it had one feature that would come to define my nights there. It was located directly beneath a specific room upstairs. A room that had always been the epicenter of a deep, inexplicable fear I've had for the upstairs of that house for as long as I can remember. I'm 23 now, and that fear hasn't diminished. To this day, I refuse to go up there alone. The entire second floor has an atmosphere that feels thick, heavy, but one room, in particular, is the source of the dread. It's a long, narrow bedroom. When you open the door, you're faced with closets on your left and right, a bed placed roughly in the middle, and a single window on the far wall. It's a layout that feels almost designed for unease. As a kid, to explain my fear away, my grandparents would tell me a story. They said that the sons of the previous owner, boys who had slept in that very room, claimed to have seen something. They didn't call it a ghost or a shadow man. Their childhood minds gave it a shape they could understand, a gorilla. They said this gorilla would come out of the closet at night, dance around the room in a strange, silent shuffle, and then retreat back into the darkness of the closet. As a child, I dismissed it. It sounded like a silly story, the kind of thing older brothers make up to scare their younger siblings. I thought nothing of it, until I was 14, lying in the room directly below it, in the dark, completely alone. I remember that first night vividly. The house was dark and silent. Everyone had gone to bed. I was lying awake, staring at the ceiling, hyper-aware of every little sound. And then I heard it. Thump, thump, thump. It started at one end of the room above me. The far end, by the window. The sound was unmistakable. They were footsteps. Not the frantic running of a rodent, not the random pop of settling wood. This was a slow, casual, bipedal pace, a deliberate walk. My blood ran cold. I lay perfectly still, barely breathing, as the steps moved across the ceiling. Thump, thump, thump. They moved from the window, passed directly over my head, and continued to the other end of the room, near the door, where they stopped. The silence that followed was somehow louder and more terrifying than the footsteps themselves. I couldn't take it. I scrambled out of bed and rushed to my grandpa's room. I shook him awake, my voice trembling as I told him what I heard. He, ever the pragmatist, gave me the classic explanation. "The house is old, sweetie," he said, his voice groggy with sleep. "It creaks. It's just the pipes, or the wood contracting." But he was kind. He got up and turned on the dining room light, casting a soft yellow glow into the hallway. It was a gesture of comfort, a beacon of the rational world. Feeling a little safer, I went back to my room. I lay back down, clutching my blankets, trying to convince myself that my grandpa was right. The house was just talking. But then, it started again. This time, the footsteps began right where they had ended, by the door upstairs, and they began their slow, casual walk back across the room. Thump, thump, thump. right over my head again, back towards the window. My heart was hammering against my ribs. This wasn't random. This was a pattern, a patrol. And then, the unthinkable happened. The footsteps didn't stop at the window. I heard them move towards the top of the staircase, and then I heard the first step creak under a weight that wasn't supposed to be there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It was coming down. A silence hung in the air as it reached the landing. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Another silence. It was now on the first floor. My floor. Whatever this was, it had ignored the rational comfort of the dining room light. It was here, in the hallway, just outside my door. I was frozen, paralyzed by a fear so pure it felt like a physical weight on my chest. I was staring at the doorway, the light from the dining room shining a sliver of illumination into my room. And then, my vision began to distort. The edges of the door frame seemed to waver. I felt dizzy, nauseous with terror. I did the only thing I could think to do. I pulled the blankets over my head, creating a flimsy cotton fortress. And that's when the new sound started. A scratching. Not from outside. From inside my room. It was a very specific, unmistakable sound. I knew exactly where it was coming from. My grandpa's old wooden gun case, standing against the wall. It was the sound of long, deliberate fingernails, or something worse being dragged down the front of the wooden door. Scrape. I could even hear the delicate brass latch on the door tapping lightly against the frame with each agonizing pull. Tap. Scrape. Tap. Scrape. It was right there, in the room with me. I tried to scream, to call for my grandpa, but my voice was gone, stolen by the terror. My throat was locked shut. I took a second, a desperate, gasping breath, and poured every ounce of my fear into one loud, piercing scream. Within seconds, I heard my grandpa's frantic footsteps rushing down the hall. He threw my door open, the light from the hallway flooding the room. The scratching had stopped. The presence was gone. The relief was so immense I almost cried. Needless to say, my grandpa still didn't believe me. He checked the room, found nothing, and told me it was probably a tree branch outside. But I knew what I heard, so I did what any rational person would do in that situation. I didn't just get under the covers. I draped a sheet over the side of the bed, creating a wall, and I slept underneath the bed itself, wrapped tight in a comforter, with headphones on, my back to the door. If there was going to be a party of ghosts in my room, I wanted no part of it. The next morning, my grandpa told my grandma about my nightmare. Her response sent another chill down my spine. She laughed softly and said, "Oh, that's silly. You know, your cousin woke me up the last time she stayed here. She came into my room saying, 'I hear footsteps.' It wasn't just me. It had never been just me. I've stayed at my grandma's house countless times since that first horrific night. The footsteps are a constant. Every visit, without fail, I hear that slow, casual walk across the room above me. I'm brave enough now to sleep on top of the bed, but I still keep my back to the door, and I always sleep with headphones on. I haven't heard it come down the stairs since that first night, but I live with the quiet, chilling knowledge that it can. And if it ever does again, I truly, with all my heart, do not want to know." Don't want to lose this channel and always be up to date with new videos? Then make sure to subscribe. The story continues, and it's only getting more interesting.